Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. Parliament passed the new Income Tax Bill 2025 on Tuesday, the 12th of August, with the Rajya Sabha clearing it by a voice vote and returning it to the Lok Sabha. The bill was passed in the Lok Sabha on Monday. Now, this legislation, which replaces the 6-decade-old Income Tax Act of 1961, aims to simplify tax procedures, cut compliance burdens, and modernize outdated provisions. Piloting the Income Tax Bill 2025 in the Rajya Sabha, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said it did not impose any new tax rate and only simplified the language, which was required for understanding the complex income tax laws. The new bill removes redundant provisions and archaic language and reduces the number of sections from 819 in the Income Tax Act of 1961 to 536 and the number of chapters from 47 to 23. The number of words have been reduced from 5.12 lakh to 2.6 lakh in the new bill, and for the first time, it introduces 39 new tables and 40 new formulas, replacing the dense text of the 1961 law in order to enhance clarity. The new income tax bill was drafted within a record time of 6 months and introduced in the budget session in February 2025. It will come into effect from the 1st of April 2026. To help us better understand the key provisions of the new income tax bill and understand how it will impact the taxpayers, the businesses and the overall economy, we are joined by 3 distinguished guests. So allow me to begin the program by introducing them to you. I'm delighted to have in the studio Mr. Ved Jain, former President, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Thank you, sir, for your time. Welcome to the program. Joining us virtually is Mr. Sanjay Seth, Member of Parliament. He represents the BJP in the Rajya Sabha. Mr. Seth, glad to have you with us on the program. Welcome to Sansad TV. Also joining us is Mr. K.K. Sharma, Senior Advocate and former DG Income Tax. Mr. Sharma, absolute pleasure to have you with us on this program on Sansad TV. Mr. Jain, so let's begin the program today with you. The biggest key takeaway for me has been the Finance Minister's assertion that no new tax rate has been imposed and only the language has been simplified for better understanding of the income tax laws. To begin with, what are some of the most significant simplifications according to you in the new bill?
I will say the most significant simplification in the bill is the way you have to read the year for which the tax is to be paid. There was a lot of confusions in the so many 64 years all along. Nobody is able to understand what is previous year, what is assessment year. Now it is the tax year, so simple and so clear. Right. Even the best of courts, I will say, tribunals, assessing officer, tax administration, taxpayer, they were always confused what is previous year, what is assessment year. Now it is a tax year. The way I believe over a period of 64 years, this act has become so complex. What to talk of a taxpayer, even the best of the tax consultant, expert, they were always lost, they were getting lost in the maze, where to read, from where to find out what is the implication. That's the biggest change. And as you told, just Finance Minister has clearly said, this exercise of bringing the new income tax bill is to simplify the tax which is existing as on date. This does not in any way tinker with the tax rate structure, what is the tax to be paid, and the way the income is to be computed is exactly the same what it was in the earlier bill as on date. So it is an exercise for simplification, both for the benefit of the taxpayer, they can understand what this provision is, how this income is to be computed, what is the tax I need to pay, and for a tax administration, how to implement the tax law, it has become much easier. And this exercise, as you said rightly, in a very short period of 6 months, it has been done. It's a mammoth bill, 819 sections getting converted to 536. You can understand the type of work which I believe the people who have drafted it, and then later on the select committee which has made so many suggestions to carry out certain corrections which were required. Hats off to them.
In fact, I also wanted to ask you about the drastic reduction in sections, chapters, the word count. It's amazing how they've reduced it by so much. But how will this impact or affect the practical compliance of both the individuals and the businesses?
See, the compliance depends mainly how do you understand the tax. what is the act says, and in case the act itself is complex, at one place I say something, at another place I am saying something, and third place I am saying something, understanding becomes difficult. Right. And you are not in a position to understand whether the third one overrule the second, or the second will overrule the third, or the first will overrule. Now with this reduction, as you say, the chapters and the formulas which have been given, the idea is that if you have an exemption, then there is a complete annexure which say these incomes are exempt. So you know that only these income which are falling in this chapter are exempt. When we talk of the formula, so there is always a complexity in how do I compute the income. By giving formula, examples have been given that in this scenario, this computation will happen like this, the formula has been given. Yeah. So there is, I believe, it's a very little possibility for taxpayer and tax administration to have two different views on the same provision, on the same income. So you will understand that tax is on an income, and there is always a challenge between the taxpayer and tax administration. The taxpayer want to reduce its income, and the tax, obviously there's a human nature, and tax administration want to little bit widen the. Now that scope with this type of, I believe, say chapters and then formula, I believe almost gone. Now both have to fall in the same line and the same page. This is the correct interpretation, and you don't have any option. I can't say, no, this is not like this formula says like this, no, I will compute like this. Or even tax administration cannot say, no, I will not, I will charge a different way. So that will go, I think, to reduce litigation. It will bring transparency and certainty. In tax law, nothing can be better than the certainty, because it does not give any option to any side.
Okay, so the much needed improvement, the simplification of these complex laws that was required now that new bill has been passed by Parliament. Let's bring in Mr. Sanjay Seth and get a policy and sort of political perspective as well. Mr. Seth, you were among the members who had the opportunity to take part in the discussion on the new income tax bill in Rajya Sabha. Very briefly, sir, if I could request you to give us and our viewers a sense of the discussion that took place on the bill in the House, especially on the improvements that this new legislation will bring about.
Yeah, good evening. First of all, I'll thank our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, and Finance Minister Shrimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, for making this a historic reform of income tax. This bill is from in last 64 years, nothing has been changed. UPA government wanted to change some amendments, but they were not able to do it. Now our government has done this reforms, and this will make a person, not a aam aadmi, will have to get a very easy access to the income tax laws, and they can have a good feeling. Our discussion in Rajya Sabha is totally Congress side. They have boycotted. They are not in favor of giving any support to this bill. They were not supporting it. They have boycotted the entire Rajya Sabha, has been boycotted by the entire opposition. Yes. And then we have all the BJP and allied NDA members have made the discussion, and this was a very, with one voice, we have passed this bill.
Okay.
Now, this bill is being sent to a select committee in which Shri Ved Jain MP was the chairman, and he has 36 sittings in for this making this law. They have reduced this, as you said, they have reduced from 800 something clauses to 536 sections with 23 amendments, and everything has been done in this way. Now, at this moment, a normal person can access to they can file their own form without the help of any chartered accountant or anything, and this will increase the revenue of the government also. Now, the second thing is that some days before, US President had said something about the dead economy. I would like to clarify that India is growing. We are now the 5th largest economy in the world, and we are going to become 3rd economy in next 2-3 years. So this word like dead economy, I wanted to tell the entire nation that this is not true. I'll give you some figures in this case which will highlight the India's GDP growth rate is 6.5%, the highest among all G20 economies.
Right.
In May 2025, the inflation fell to 2.8, to the lowest level since 2019. Total exports reached to 824.9 billion in 2024-25. India's nominal GDP grew from 106.57 lakh crore in 2014-15 to 331.03 lakh crore in 2024-25. So we are now the global powerhouse. We are the most powerful country in the world, and this way this income tax bill will create more faster economy and give us the betterment of this entire system.
Absolutely. It's a significant step towards further improving ease of doing a business, further simplifying the understanding of the income tax laws. Dr. Sharma, I'll come to you. And the question that I want to understand from you is, there's simplification which of course was much needed. How we've seen this drastic reduction in not just the word count but also the manner in which new formulas, new tables have been introduced for the first time. So as everyone who is trying to understand the laws is able to understand, and we've seen how the older laws that become obsolete, even for a common man, it's very, very difficult to understand what precisely lies in that legislation. So this much needed simplification, but how will it now lead to faster resolution of, faster resolution, particularly in the tax cases?
As a matter of fact, as other speakers have spoken, it's a great step, and I must say it's a commendable effort, because earlier efforts have been made 2-3 times and they did not succeed. The way I look at it, enormity of the task, and it has been reduced by 50%. And my only worry was, when I was looking through this legislation, that perhaps it may lead to more court cases and litigations. But one of the interesting agenda is that one of the mandate of the committee was that all the words and phrases which have been frozen and which have been accepted after the litigations, they should be retained. So that way they have made efforts that not only the new bill will ensure that it reaches to the common man who can read it carefully and his dependence on the professionals is reduced, but it will also lead that when multiple interpretation of some words and phrases are there which are the cause of litigation, they are minimized. And one more interesting part is that when earlier legislation, it had, for example, head of salaries or capital gains business, so one could not understand and one cannot compute his income unless he refers to multiple chapters. Here they have tried to, and it's a very massive exercise, because legislation is not easy. Once you try to consolidate, you find that something is missing here and there, but within 6 months flat, they have done a wonderful job. So once you bring all those things together, so when that common man, even if he is under the guidance of the professionals, he reaches court, he himself also understands. He cannot be misguided, he cannot be taken for a ride, and the provisions are so clear, he knows how much is my deduction, how much exemption is available, and all those provisos and explanations which were proviso provided further. So there were 5-6 provisos also and many, many explanations. All those complexities have gone. So now to begin with, at this point of time, as we will start on this particular bill, starting from 1st April 2026, it will be a clean slate. Of course, as it happened with the earlier legislation, courts will decide something, sometimes government may decide to amend the law. So it may again start becoming a little more complex, but wiping out a legacy of, reframing a legacy of more than 60 years is a tough job. So it's very certain that when this is put into practice, except some new phrases which may create confusion, otherwise the old phrases have been retained. So it will reduce litigation, it will bring this tax complexity will go, and tax compliance is going to grow. So it appears to be in tune with the government's earlier formula, maximum governance and minimum government. So I believe it need to reduce this substantially.
So this has reduced all possibility perhaps of any gaps or ambiguities in the way the law is interpreted. In addition to simplifying the law, Mr. Jain, what are the other provisions that stand out for you in the new bill?
See, the objective of bringing the new bill was to learn from the experience of this 64 year of this bill,
right,
and to make sure that how to make the life easier of the taxpayer, looking to the way the Indian economy is growing, and we should be in the league of the developed nations soon on that part. We are a developing nation, we're in the league of developed nations. So our Income Tax Act should reflect that we are really a developed nation that way. So the objective was that let's rewrite this law without making any structural changes about the tax rate and computation of income in a manner which anyone read it and can understand it. Now, there was a complication that this existing act, proviso, can you understand 15, 16 proviso, one after the others in the language, which creates a complication. And this was a challenge for everyone. Then explanation, there was the explanation, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is you like. So now this has become a major challenge for taxpayer and administration. So now this bill gives a very simplified way how to compliance. See, now when you are in economy is globalizing, the multinational company which you want to operate, they want a certainty and clarity in the law. Now putting all TDS, tax deduction at source provision, at one place and under one chapter, and giving the schedule that in case you have to make payment, you have to deduct so much percentage and so much like. So there is a now clarity on that part. And if there is a clarity on this, a person who is supposed to comply, he will comply with it and will have a certainty that once I have complied with this, there is not bound to be any tax demand or litigation against me. Because you will appreciate that when people do business, they want a certainty that tomorrow they may not be caught on the wrong foot by interpretation. So the biggest benefit, I believe, of this new income tax bill, which is going to be act after the President signs it, so will be that there will be a clarity and certainty. This is the major issue. But to answer your question, what are the new changes? As I said, this act is not meant to make any change in the tax rate and the computation of income. It is basically an exercise to ease administration of the law, meaning thereby interpretation becomes easier, and a common man and the taxpayer and the tax administration both are on the same page understanding it. Now, somebody may ask it question that how it is going to help the economy and how it is going to work at our future. Now, when there is a clarity and certainty in the act, it will be very difficult for anybody not to comply with it, to take an undue advantage of the interpretation which they could have taken in case there is a complexity. Now, if that happens, obviously the number of taxpayers, of course, will increase. Also, the income which get reported will also increase because there will be no scope for tax evasion. If there is no scope of tax evasion, naturally the tax kitty is going to increase. If tax kitty is going to increase, obviously the money available with the government to put money for infrastructure, development of road, railways, ports, etc. will be tremendous. And if that is there, there will be ease of doing business which will attract more investment in India. And of course, it will generate more income, more employment for India. And that is what our goal is for 2047, to be in the league on that part.
So no wonder the finance minister mentioned in the House that this is one bill, one legislation that the government is bringing about, and it's a milestone that the country's financial system is going to face. Mr. Seth, 3 points that emerged from what Mr. Jain said: clarity, certainty, transparency. all of these aspects aligning with the government's broader agenda of ease of doing business. How do you see that, sir?
Under the leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, the government is doing our best to make India as a Viksit Bharat. And by 2027, we wanted to become the third economy. And by 2047, we wanted us, and we have taken the pledge to become the developed country. Now, in this way, this bill will create more taxes by giving reliefs to all those Aam Janta. And if you see in this bill also, in this act also, if you see other act, there are text by text and text. Now in this case, we have given some graphics also. These graphics will explain to a normal person like how to compute his income and how to pay the taxes. We are growing, and the growth is visible by, if you see the direct tax collection, in 2014 we have 6.3 lakh crore. Now at this moment we have 19.6 lakhs crore as direct tax collection. This is being contributed by the middle class and salaried people mostly. Now, personal income tax has grown from 2.42 lakh crore to 10.45 crore. Corporate tax collection has grown from 3.9 lakh crore to 9.11 lakh crore. Gross direct tax collection for 24-25 reached a remarkable 27.02 lakh crore. So this way you see that we are growing, people are honestly and transparency, if the government is doing some work, they are contributing their money, their taxes to develop this country as a Viksit Bharat.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that, because what we are working is meant for to add momentum to the growth that is taking place, the manner in which the transformation is taking place, and that efforts have to be accelerated. In that context, Mr. Sharma, what we saw over the decades was that the 1961 Income Tax Act that we had, it went through several amendments, keeping in pace with the changing times. How do we ensure that the new income tax bill, which will come into effect from the 1st of April 2026, can be future proofed, so that the challenges that we may face in the next 10 years or 20 years, this act should be able to foresee all of those, and perhaps we hope the provisions cover those as well?
As a matter of fact, it has covered the entire 60 years legacy, because there were a lot of huge changes in the department. There was a new system of faceless assessment, which was their faceless officers and jurisdictional officers. All those things were tried to be incorporated in the old act, which did not have that provision inbuilt. So all those works were done, but they were introduced into that. Now it is, from the day of inception, it is having all those provisions, everything which was there till yesterday, that has been included in that. In addition to that, a lot of litigation and problems which happen, because of which amendments become necessary and litigation also comes, is the provisos and the wordings. Here, substantial cases, they have given a formula. Now, in a formula, when A is equal to B plus C, there can hardly be a dispute. So, chances of things becoming complicated when they go to courts, when you use language now, a single formula, when you put it, one of the tables I'm looking at, if you put it in words, it will occupy at least 5, 6, 10 pages. And when you have 10 pages and there are 20 lawyers and they will catch one phrase here and one phrase there, they will fight, and it will lead to all kinds of complications and amendment thereafter. Okay. So the way it has been made, they are using tables. In the tables, there are absolutely slabs are given. So the chances of dispute and misinterpretation are very, very less. And secondly, now the common man, who many times was going to litigation and was believing whatever his practitioner was saying, he himself can open the book. And instead of going to third provision, fourth explanations, and fifth entry in the schedule, he himself will know what all is available, what he is supposed to pay. Many cases, he may decide that there is no need to go for litigation. and what I have to pay ultimately and what I'm losing, it's good enough. But if he goes to some consultant and all, they may not give that kind of advice. So now half the job will be done by homework with the taxpayers themselves, because they will be able, it's very easy to read, very simple, and all the provisions are together. So he did not have any difficulty, and many of those small kind of litigation I have seen, now I am in the practice. Many times, if the client knows beforehand, okay, if I go in this litigation, this is the time and money, but how much I have to pay, how much is the ultimate knock? If he discovers that, he will not go for litigation. So not only it will reduce the litigation from the government side, it will also reduce the government from taxpayer side, and it will lead to prevailing of good sense among everybody. So chances of litigation, further amendments are less, but amendments will continue for the simple reason that income tax is a dynamic legislation, requirements of economy, different segments demanding different growth, different social segments of society wanting different kind of favors, sometimes regional growth, sometimes international commerce. So those kinds of amendments will continue, they cannot be done away with, and they will be in need of time and they will be welcome.
Certainly, they need to keep evolving with the changing times. But what we've understood is that this bill has been drafted very, very meticulously. 6 months record time, 75,000 person hours gone into making this bill. But each and everything has been taken care of to make it very, very simple, but yet taking care of the challenges that we might face in the times to come. Before it's implemented, one last question, because time is running out. At this, I want to understand from the point of view of the viewers who are watching, the common persons, before this law is implemented, how do we ensure smooth transition and, most importantly, awareness among the general public about what this bill entails?
See, so far transition is concerned, the bill takes care of it. There is a section 536 which is there, that Income Tax Act existing 1961 will stand repealed on 1st April 2026. But existing, whatever is the return, tax returns, assessment which are going on, they will continue to be valid for all time to come under the old act, what has been done. And whatever is happening after 1st April 2026, that is a tax year 2026-27, it will be under the new law, that is a transition. Now, this bill having been passed, the rules, form, etc., have to be sufficient time for the government to notify this issue. As regards the awareness, as I said, tax rate and tax structure have not changed. But I believe now the government will be notifying the rules, government will be notifying the forms, etc. And of course, then awareness, and that the government has to move around at different stations, organize program, tell people that this is done there. And this is an ongoing exercise which happens in the past also, in the future also. There being no substantive change in the tax incidence on a taxpayer, so I don't see there is any challenge to the taxpayer. On the contrary, it is an ease which the taxpayer is going to feel from 1st April 2026 in compliance also. Filing return, TDS, TCS, whatever may be the ease of the day out there.
Right.
And one thing you must appreciate, tax laws are directly linked to the economy. So what we have done is administrative law, we have frozen it at like this and like it. But as the country progresses looking to the economy, whatever may be the adjustment and technique will require, that annual exercise will always be on that for that purpose. Because that's a tax rate and tax structure has to move in line with how the economy is moving on that part. Okay. So I believe now it was a marathon exercise, I think, which the government was supposed. Hats off to all officers of the department which have carried out this mammoth exercise in 6 months. And also we must compliment the select committee the way it has worked. I think the number of meetings, I had the privilege of being part of looking at there. I can understand the way they were engrossed for each of the presentation which we people made before the committee.
In fact, the finance minister did mention and did commend how the committee scrutinized each and every provision of the bill and gave their suggestions. So this bill is just one step away from becoming an act when the president will grant her assent, and this will come into effect starting the 1st of April 2026. With that, we'll have to wrap up the conversation. Thank you once again to all my guests for joining us on the program today, sharing their perspective with us and our viewers. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.